Hi, I'm Phill Grove here in Austin, Texas, and I'm here with a new friend and a good friend of mine, George Ross, who's a best-selling publisher of 2 books, star of Celebrity Apprentice and Donald Trump's right-hand man for quite a number of years.
A lot of years, yes, almost 40 years.
And George is here in Austin for the first time. We just had breakfast together, and George, in about 5 minutes, has the whole lay of the land. He's telling me where to invest in Austin, where not to invest in Austin. I've been investing in Austin for a decade, and he figured it out in about 5 minutes. I guess that comes from experience, George?
That comes from experience. That when you get my age, you don't have that much time to look into things, so you better move fast.
I mean, literally, George, you know, he looks at a map and he says, you want to invest here. I mean, he had it exactly right. I mean, I know because this is my town, but he had it exactly right just from looking at a map. And basically what you told me is every city is the same pretty much. After you've seen one, you've seen them all.
True.
Well, George is here because we're at a very special event here in Austin, Texas. And what I like to say is, you know, the stars have aligned in a very unique way, a very different way. In other words, right now, here we are in the Great Recession, the banking crisis, the post-bubble crisis. The things that used to work don't work any longer. And the things that you need to do now are quite different than what worked 5 years ago. So we're here to give our students the tools and strategies and tactics to be successful in today's market, which is a gift because the biggest opportunities exist for those who solve the biggest problems in the biggest times of need. And there are some significant problems to solve, and there are some significant opportunities to go along with them. So we want our students to think big. And to get them to think big, I invited George to come here to Austin to talk to my students because, you know, George and I have been talking to each other. I do exactly the same thing that George does. We find deals, we negotiate deals, and we sign contracts. The only difference between the contracts that I'm doing and the contracts that George has been doing is he adds about 3 zeros.
That's right.
About 3 zeros to that thing. And that's what thinking big is all about. So, George, I want to appreciate that you have come here to Austin. And do you have any words for thinking big?
Well, thanks for having me. But you hit the nail basically right on the head. And this is a unique opportunity when things are down. Those that can succeed and think outside the box make fortunes, and they do extremely well. Right. Most people say, "Well, it's not the right time to invest, so I'll wait." Yeah. When you wait, you lose.
You know, in 2007. Everybody in the world wanted to be a real estate investor because they had watched people make money from 2002 to 2007. By 7, you're at the top of the market and everybody wants in. And frankly, it was arguably the first time in history to get into the market in 2007. Here we are in 2011, and frankly, nobody wants to be a real estate investor because everybody looks at the real estate market and they see all these people that lost money over the last several years. Well, what do you think about the opportunity right now?
So the opportunity right now is great. You see, what most people don't realize is that more fortunes have been lost in real estate than ever were made. But the smart people, those that have the courage and are ahead of basically the curve, are the ones that are successful. So if you buy in an up market, you're not doing great. If you buy in a down market and you can survive the next cycle, whatever it may be, you're going to end up very well. So it really requires more ingenuity and more courage. Right. But those are the ones that would be very successful.
Well, and I think, you know, when you're investing in a market that's coming down, you have to have a PhD to be an investor. It's tricky. It's difficult to navigate.
No.
But right now, you know, the market's just bouncing along the bottom. You know, what advice do you have for new investors that are just starting? They haven't even done their first deal. They're just starting right now. And they're getting into this thing. They don't know what they're doing. What is your advice for people just starting?
My advice, first of all, is that I would certainly go in for coaching and mentoring, which you do, and deal with experts who have been in the field for a while and can give you the knowledge that you need to operate in a, call it an unusual market. Right. And hook up with some professionals or other people which are successful, and then tap their brains as to see the best way for you to take advantage of the downturn.
You know, and we haven't even had this conversation before, and that's exactly how I got started. When I got started, I found people that, you know, had been doing it for a while and knew a lot more than I did, and I basically said,
and they taught you. That's all, and that's how you build your own knowledge. Your own base of knowledge, and then you use it and you improve it. You find out what works and what doesn't work, and then later on you accept what does work and you
Right.
throw out what doesn't work. And a few bombs. If you got more winners than losers, you're way ahead of the game. But it's an experience.
So you've been part of some of the biggest deals in New York City for how long?
50 years.
50 years. 50 years. So you've seen a lot of market cycles.
Absolutely.
You've seen them go up and down and up and down.
Absolutely. I've seen them when they went down because of banks. I've seen them when they went down because of overbuilding.
Right.
I've seen them when it had the economy and when interest rates were 20-some-odd%.
Right.
Yes. Gone see all the cycles. And that's the one thing you know. There's always going to be a cycle.
That's what I wanted to hear, because for people that are just getting started, they haven't ever, they've seen one cycle, right? Their entire experience is, one cycle, and you've seen many cycles.
Yeah.
So what, I value that perspective. What can you
Well,
say
the
about that
perspective is the one thing I have seen: real estate will always appreciate in value.
Right.
It's just a question if you have the ability to hold it for the period of time necessary to reach the cycle you want. Also, that is different. There are some projects you go in that you want out in a year. There are others that you want out in 5 years. Others you go in land banking and say, good, I'll put it in, I'm not out for 20 years. I'll leave it for my children. So they're all different types of real estate, all different types of deals, and the idea is to make sure you're aligning what you want to do with that particular project. So if you got something that you think you want to get out in a year, have enough money to last 3 years, you'll be all right. But if you go in and say I'm out in a year and then you're in a downtime, it doesn't work.
So I guess the bottom line, I'll ask you one last question. I'm hearing people get wiped out when the things bottom out if they don't have pockets to sustain it, but if they do, they're going to be in good shape as the next cycle takes off. Right now, is it a good time to get in?
Yes, right now is the best time to get in.
Thanks.
So I would just, people have said to me, or I've said, if I were younger, I would have invested a tremendous amount of money in New Orleans right after Katrina.
Right.
All right, now, and nobody wanted any property there.
Right.
But meanwhile, you could buy property in there as a result of a catastrophe. You could buy it really cheap, and ultimately it would be a wonderful investment. But you're talking years.
Right.
So I'm saying you go there, that's not a 2-year proposition, maybe a 10-year proposition, but a wonderful opportunity only as a result of a catastrophe. Well, you got a catastrophe of sorts now because of the subprime mortgages and the so many properties are underwater. The things going on with the banks are terrible.
Right.
Yeah, but that's an opportunity for not the faint of heart.
I would call it an opportunity of a lifetime.
Of course,
Yeah.
absolutely, I would too. And the cycle will change too.
Okay. Well, George Ross, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks you.